Okay, welcome back. I'm Coach Tracey Knight, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Real Women, Real Leaders, Real Talk. Again, this show is really designed for super powerful and ambitious women who are learning how to navigate life and leadership. I know that women are out there in the world and they're leading at home, they're leading in the workplace, and they're leading in their community. And sometimes can feel left out. They can sometimes feel unseen, unheard. And I want to make sure that we all have a really safe place to come where we can discuss topics that are important to us, our growth, and our success. So, in this episode, which is part 2 of a previous show, and that is that your success doesn't just happen by happenstance. Absolutely not. Success is something that you create, and I do believe that there is a little s and a big S in success. And I'm really talking about your career success with this. In order for you to achieve career success, you must be intentional. What does intentionality mean? Intentionality means that you are very clear about the vision that you have for your career. And then you create a plan for achieving that success. And then you take action on achieving the plan. So intentionality is about one, getting very, very clear about what it is that you want and getting bold enough, audacious enough to go after it, creating a plan or strategy, and then taking action on it. And then you're going to be learning as you go along. In the last episode, we began talking about 8 gaps, 8 assumptions that we make that oftentimes get in the way of our career success. So in that episode, we talked about the assumption gap, the knowledge gap, the timing gap, and the mistake gap. And I want to finish up by talking about 4 more gaps that may be getting in the way of your career success, and you don't even know it. So let's jump right in. The next gap that you need to be acutely aware of is the mistake. No, I'm sorry, I did the mistake gap, is the perfection gap. God knows I am a recovering perfectionist. I don't know how many of you all want to get into recovery with me, but the perfection gap. Well, what is perfectionism? I think that perfectionism is that thing that leads to imposter syndrome. It's the idea that we want everything to be right. I remember one time, many, many years ago, when I used to work with the 100 Black Men of America, and I was the international program director and over a lot of programs and a lot of chapters, and we were doing a lot of things, amazing, amazing work. And I remember saying to one of the board members who I was talking to, and I just kept saying, I just want it to be right. I just want it to be right. I just want to get it right. And what I really was saying is I really want it to be perfect. And if it is perfect, I would feel whole. Like I would feel like I had accomplished something. I would feel like I had been successful. And if it didn't look the way that I thought it should look, then I oftentimes felt like I was failing. I oftentimes felt like I had missed the mark. And I oftentimes felt like I was letting people down and disappointing people. Well, all of these ideas lead to imposter syndrome. And so what ends up happening, ladies, is that we end up feeling like we really don't belong there. Despite our efforts, despite our education, despite all of the contribution that we make in an organization, to a team, to an effort, we can oftentimes get so focused on trying to make it right, trying to get it right, that we miss all of the other successes that we really have had. So the thing about the perfection gap, we oftentimes will say, I need the perfect plan before I can take action on my career goals or my career aspirations. I need to wait until I get the right degree, the right certification. And what I really want to tell you is that get moving on your plan now. The very first gap that I gave you was the assumption gap, and that's growth must be intentional, but that intentionality comes with developing a plan. Not only get started on developing your plan, get started on taking action in the plan. Action is where the rubber meets the road. You're gonna, as my mentor Bill Allen says all the time, you're going to fix this thing in flight, right? So you can't wait until you have all of the pieces in place before you take action. You're actually going to be building it as you go. That is how you actually learn. And in the last episode, I also talked about the mistake gap. Expect mistakes and learn from the mistakes. Don't allow your perfectionism to keep you from being able to fully appreciate the breakdowns, the setbacks that you experience along the way, because the perceived failure is feedback to help you further perfect the plan and the process. So we're going to move past the perfection gap by allowing ourselves to recognize when it comes up, when it is showing up, and recognize it as an imposter, that it can keep us stuck from actually getting moving on things. So get moving, then adjust the plan as you go along. Every action gets you closer to your goal. Let's go to the next one, and that's the inspiration gap. That's when you don't feel like doing it. I've got some friends and some clients who oftentimes are like, well, I'm going to wait and do it when I feel like it. Well, let me tell you right now, your humanness, which is where your ego sits, it's that part of you that oftentimes wants to keep you safe. It doesn't want you to feel discomfort. And so what happens is, it will convince you that you need to delay taking action until you actually feel like doing it. It doesn't work that way. There are going to be things that are part of this career journey that you're going to be taking that you're not going to feel like doing. You think I feel like meeting with the finance team to talk about finances, or the marketing team? Sometimes I'm so into doing my writing, or I'm so into developing a new initiative for you all, or I'm so into the coaching, and then I have to go to some type of administrative meeting, which sometimes can feel less inspiring for me. However, it is a necessary part of the business. And so there are going to be times where you don't feel as inspired, but it is a necessary puzzle piece that must be included as a part of the process. So don't wait until you feel inspired. Act first. The motivation will follow, because when you take enough consistent action, then what happens is you begin to see that things are working. Like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was. And then all of a sudden, the motivation and the drive then picks up speed. Okay? So don't get stuck in the inspiration gap. The next one is the comparison gap. Oh my God. Like, I'm doing whole shows on women comparing themselves to other people, comparing themselves to other institutions. Stop the comparison. The assumption with comparison is, I'm not as good as other people. And oftentimes we compare ourselves to other women, which creates this sense of competition. And this is what creates that cattiness in the workplace that is going to keep you stuck. The reality of it is, each person is designed to serve their role on this planet. They're designed to serve a certain group of people, a certain team, a certain industry. We all have our path that we're walking. And so you don't want to get stuck in this comparison gap, because you're going to always lose it. The losing in the comparison gap is that you can't be what this other person was intended to be. They already got that on lockdown. Oprah has Oprah on lockdown. Michelle Obama has Michelle Obama on lockdown. All they know how to do is be them. And all you know how to do is really to be you. When you're not being you, there is a gap. The true gap is the gap that you didn't stand in those shoes. So nobody is serving those people. Nobody's serving that team, because you're busy over here doing this. So what I want to encourage you to do is to let go of the comparison. Really become acutely aware, because what I've learned, because I too have been a conspirator in the comparison gap. When you think that you're supposed to be doing this, like you're supposed to be at this space, or you're supposed to be in this role, you were supposed to have gotten this title, that all of that is comparison. What that causes you to do is to not take action, because you're so stuck thinking that you were supposed to do this that you feel like you've missed out. When in truth, you really haven't missed out. You were focused on the wrong thing. Learn from others who do what they do best. Just take what they're doing and learn from it. You don't have to do that same thing. What can you take from it that will develop you so that when you're walking in your purpose, in your shoes, you will become masterful at it? They are meant to be models. Others are meant to be models in our life, to be able to see there's nothing really new under the sun. And it didn't come from any of us anyway. It came from our higher power. So focus on being the best you that you can possibly be, and that's going to get you to that career success. There's nobody who's going to be able to do it as amazing as you do it. And then the last gap that I want you to be aware of with this career success plan is the expectations gap. Let me tell you, expectations keep us stuck all the time. I thought it'd be easy. This idea that expectation is nothing more than a belief. And a belief is nothing but a thought, and a thought can be changed. But when you have an expectation of the way things have to look or are supposed to look, it's going to keep you from really seeing what is real. It's going to keep you stuck in one ideology that it has to look this way or it doesn't work. And that keeps you from seeing the possibilities of what things can be. So be very careful about how you allow expectations to govern your career. You can always set standards for what it is that you want. When you create an intention, which is the vision that you have, you're being intentional about what it is that you want, and then you create a plan for it. Don't be so tied and tethered to it. It's okay that things contract and expand as you go through working this plan. Things don't always turn out exactly the way that we think they are, but they turn out the way that they are supposed to. I tell you, my higher power of my own understanding and your higher power of your own understanding always knows what is best. If you pay attention to your spirit and allow her to lead you, you will not lose at this game called life. I want to thank you again for joining me for another episode of Real Women, Real Leaders, Real Talk. I'll be back again with you very soon to talk about some of the other laws that I have learned that will help you to grow your career exponentially, but to also grow yourself in a way that is not only irrefutable, it is something that you will be able to take into all areas of your life. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode.